you went through a hard time 4 or 5 years ago. So I'd have to imagine one of the tougher times in your life. And I'm just curious what that period was like for you.
Well, I kept saying it was bad, and then I remembered for some of the people involved in it and the survivors and what they had to go through. It was worse for them, of course.
Michigan State University and USA Gymnastics employed the serial child molester for 2 decades.
There were at least 17 officials at MSU in some capacity, whether coaches, trainers, or at least 3 psychologists who received reports of what Larry was doing. Not a single one of them reported. Not one.
If you talk to Tom Izzo, you would think that there's a ton of support, but just about everybody else is calling for heads to roll.
But it was such a tough period for everyone that, it made you really refocus and think about what is important in life and how can you help others that are way worse off than you. I learned a lot of good things, meaning how we have to do a better job taking care of our fellow men and women, human beings. I learned the dark side of things, how people attack you in different ways. I learned that.
Our community took a really hard hit on that, and the only ones that were standing were Tom and I. You know, we lost our president, we lost our AD, we lost, other different people, and some of them needed to go, and a lot of blame was thrown here and there. But because we were the last people here, there was a lot of attacking on him. The issue was that a lot of us were being silenced and we couldn't say anything about it because it was all under investigation. And sometimes they'd say, well, if he's not saying something, maybe he's guilty.
Those press conferences were brutal.
No, they weren't that good. They weren't that good. I look back, they were embarrassing. They were brutal.
I hope that the right person was convicted, and I have to say, though, that I have the utmost faith and respect for the leadership of our president, too, at Michigan State.
I'm a guy that always talks. I'm a guy that I don't think ducks many questions. And I was at a point, and our whole place and even our country was at a point where there was just not a right word that could be said, and I didn't say much. And that bothered me. It hurt me.
Did it?
Yeah, a lot, because I felt like there was an evil human being, and I mean evil, and that human being deserved worse than he's already gotten, in my humble opinion. And sometimes less said, the better. And that's not what I did for my first 58 years of life. And so I don't know if I handled it right or handled it wrong, because there was no good way to handle it. That was probably the darkest time of my career, wins and losses, those games we talked about earlier, that what was your toughest loss? Nothing compared to those 2-3 years.
It's interesting you say you don't know whether you handled it right or wrong. Steve Mariucci said it was one of the few times he's ever seen you second-guessing yourself. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, your thoughts on that.
Well, he was right. I talked to him a lot, but who could you talk to? And I did one press conference, and I said a wrong word that to this day I wouldn't even have thought nothing of it. It was like any word I said was going to get attacked. And Larry Nassar, in my humble opinion, deserved everything that's happened. And I feel for his family, I feel for people, but those survivors did not deserve that. So I didn't know how to handle it, and I was...
What was your lowest point throughout the process?
The picture on TV of me, D'Antonio, and Larry Nassar. It was probably the lowest point in my, not adult life, just because I knew what I thought of Larry Nassar. And there I am. like we're all buddies, like the three of us. Those press conferences were, they were attacks. And I thought to this day, those attacks by certain media was uncalled for.
I was angry. I was angry at the media. And you're the first person, I don't consider you media, but I've kind of lost respect for a lot of them because if they didn't stick up for them, they were against them. I used to have them here all the time, have dinners and talk, and Tom was very open and talked to the media, but I think that whole thing kind of scrambled. Everybody's looking for a story and everyone who wanted the top billing. And I just saw the ugly part of it, and I had to live with it.
And you, correct me if I'm wrong, only met Nassar once, and it was
I met
like
him
in a hospital when you were trying to be nice and
he was here 30 years and I was here same time.
Yeah.
Never ever met him. I got called, our football team was going to a bowl game and we had a gymnast who was seriously injured. And her parents were coming in from Chicago and they asked me if I would go to the hospital to be the voice of Michigan State athletics, because everybody, when you go to a bowl game, everybody's gone. And I did that. And I don't know, he was making rounds and he came by and it was a high. I mean, never had a conversation, never knew him. But I was front and center in that picture. That for me, this will go down as something I'll remember for a long, long time.
I was talking to Steve Mariucci, obviously his best friend, and Steve was like, I thought there was a decent chance he was going to end up being gone too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where was your mind at during that time?
It's just that it wasn't right, it wasn't true. And Tom had to prove, and he stayed because we wanted to make sure that people know that Michigan State is a wonderful university. It's got a lot of great people. The community is awesome. And we're deeply rooted and we supported us.
So a couple days ago, the president resigned. Third in 4 years.
Yeah.
What was your reaction?
You know, I honestly was a little surprised. It's been different. I mean, we had a president here for a long time, and that got gobbled up in some of the problems.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we had some different ones come and go as what happened, but that's one of the reasons I told you that I want to be here.
And actually, one of the former trustees came out and said, "You're the guy to heal."
Yeah, I'd be a good president. They'd run me out of office faster than Carter got liver pills. You know, it'd be just like, are you kidding me?
No, but
I mean, that's a tough job.
In a complimentary way.
He did. I was informed of that. I didn't see it.